Here we go. We're on.
All right.
We're live.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to try one more technology thing here, see if I can share my screen.
I love technology things. Thank you, Jody.
Oh.
Always, early morning technology things are the best.
Right. All right. Can you guys see it?
Yes, I've got it.
Awesome. Not that I have a whole bunch of slides, but just, to look official and stuff.
Ooh, we love official.
Always, yes, always go with official.
All right. Should we give just another minute or two, or should we jump right in?
Yeah, we had
I don't know
about
how many people we've got joined.
35, 40 folks sign up. So let's, maybe give them a second.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. Get ourselves settled in.
Yes.
Some great content and great speakers this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm really excited about this one.
Same.
Good morning, Taylor. Sam, you're in your home base unless you're traveling now with your neon sign.
I am home base.
Yeah, I always think you're in California. I don't know why, but
everyone thinks I'm always in California. And what's so funny is I've only been there twice this year.
Yeah, so I don't know. You're perpetually in California in my mind. I wouldn't mind, SoCal a little more often. Although Denver weather is pretty nice. I like it here too.
It's been awfully nice here in Central Ohio the last couple of weeks.
That was a good visit last week. The weather was perfect, I think.
It was pretty cold, honestly. Yeah, like it's pretty chilly here in Milwaukee. It's fake fall season, so
Yeah.
Chris.
I know. The feel like was 42 this morning. I was like, oh no, like.
And I'm excited that we had just enough time before the airport to stop by Cornhenge. That was.
I'm glad you guys made it to Cornhenge. Yes,
You had to go.
I know it was a caravan of 3 cars and trying to find a way to take a picture when nobody was around. We ended up using a tree. The tree that nature helped us. There was a perfect tree with it just kind of custom made for a phone setup. So we were able to create, and just as we got it set up, a couple of folks came along and took a real picture for us.
Nice.
But the tree, we actually ended up using the tree picture. So what are we gonna do?
They grew that tree on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the selfie tree.
I love it.
Maybe just maybe one more minute, Jody, and then get yourself cranking.
Thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Love
5
it.
after.
That seems like a good waypoint. We have these wonderful little huddle rooms everywhere here at the corporate office, which is kind of cool. You can just come in here and shut the door.
Are they shaped like Airstream trailers, though?
They are not.
That would be pretty cool. If your little nap pods and huddle rooms are shaped like mini Airstream trailers, that'd be pretty badass.
But some of them do have I don't want to say like a lounge chair, but just like a comfortable chair. Other ones have like a desk and a chair, which is what I'm in today. But other ones, like if you just have to take a personal phone call or something.
You can jump in the egg pod.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to this edition of Diverse Minds. And today we're going to explore neurodiversity. I'm going to walk through a couple of things here, and then we will jump right into to our panel and hearing what they have to say, because they are the experts. So let's go through my slides. If I can hit the right buttons. So just a quick on Dynamics user community. They have been founded in 1995. They are the ones who are gracious enough to provide the support to let us do things like this. And I'm personally very grateful that they not only support our dynamics journeys and learning about all of the systems that we use, but things like this and enhancing our professional lives, because I think they go hand in hand. Some quick, there is a Texas regional coming up if you happen to be local there, and one coming up in January in Tampa. So I can say that we just last week had our Ohio regional, very successful, lots of attendees, and very excited to start planning for next year, which will be our 4th annual. DynamicsCon live, which I know the name has changed, but DynamicsCon in person, happening in May out in Las Vegas this year. I'll hang out on this slide for just a minute. If you snap the QR code there, it'll take you to registration, to get registered and come see us all in person. I think most of us will be there.
Yeah.
I definitely will. Yep. And the early bird pricing, it doesn't show here, but it is going to roll for, a little bit, just because we're still early birds. I mean, at this pace is really early bird. We should call it super duper early bird pricing.
All the worms
are
being
there.
this early.
Yeah, go grab one.
All right. Then another Generate, which is going to be, and Bobby, you can probably speak to this a little more than I can, but it is just in the beginning stages. This QR code will take you to a page to allow you to sign up for notices. And this is something that will be focusing, I believe it's in Tampa, if I'm correct.
Miami, Florida.
Miami. I had the right state.
A little deeper, yeah.
Is focusing on AI and ERP.
Yeah, it's Microsoft sponsored, Jody. It's going to be 100% focused on how organizations are using AI in ERP. So going beyond that level of your typical AI use, in documentation, summaries, efficiency. This is going deeper into AI, and so we're excited. It's coming together pretty quickly, and expect a more thorough announcement and a proper website and registration soon.
Awesome. So before I jump into, I wanted to kind of give everyone also a brief history description of what Diverse Minds is. And we're a collaboration, multiple individuals with a variety of experiences, perspectives, and passions. Dynamics User Group kind of brought us together, and we are focused on just shedding light and bringing awareness to anything that is outside the normal business box, whether it is women in tech or neurodiversity, physical abilities, LGBTQ, anything that kind of puts you out, I'm gonna say outside of the norm, because that's the idea is to bring everything together. And that's kind of been our focus. We are led by right now a team of 6. I'm looking at my numbers, soon to be 7. So we have Robin Fennell, Taylor Dorward, Bobby Small, Mark Apicella, Rachel Irabor, myself, and we'll soon be adding Kate Coffee Bacon. So she'll be joining us soon, and the idea is once a month we get together virtually, spend 60 to 90 minutes just learning, talking about some aspect. We've done, like I said, we've done women in technology. We had a session where Taylor talked about accessibility. These things will just continue and blossom. You can reach all of us on the Meetup platform. So if you have ideas, something you want to join us and talk about, reach out and we will make it happen. So jumping into today's topic, which is neurodiversity and neurodiversity. And I started thinking about it, and so I asked Copilot for some definitions, And this is what it gave me. I did like that it focused on a little bit on the history of when the term kind of came about, and that it focuses on natural variations in brain function. So I just put these two kind of definitions up there to kind of put things in perspective of where we're coming from today. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is why it's important to me. And when we were talking, I volunteered to kind of host this session at, gosh, what was it? 6, 7 years old. We had my son in counseling. He was doing great in school, phenomenal grades, but was having issues, couldn't switch topics. He had to be done with math before he could switch to English. He didn't do well when he felt punishment or enforcement of the rules was unbalanced. Very much into, it must be the same for everyone. And so we were having some, I don't want to say issues, but just things that were making it difficult for him. So we reached out to a counselor, and they recommended visiting with a psychiatrist, which we did. And she did a very thorough interview of my husband and myself before she ever met my son. And she told us, she said, I'm going to kind of withhold my opinion until I meet him, but I have a pretty good idea of what I think is going on. So 2 days later, she met with him, and then we all got together. And basically at the time, because this was almost 20 years ago, she said, your son has Asperger's and combined type ADHD. And we said, but he has amazing focus. How can he have ADHD? And she said, there are different types, and the idea that it's just someone who can't sit still and can't focus is not true, right? If it's something he's interested in, he can have intense focus. And you throw in the Asperger's, and he can have really intense focus, which we had experienced. He was 4 years old and knew the mile-long word for fossilized dinosaur poop, because at the time that was his focus, was dinosaurs. So we took the diagnosis, went to the school and said, this is what we're working with. And we were very lucky. They were very encouraging. They got him an IEP that worked for him. His IEP was actually very simple. When he would get overwhelmed, he would melt down. And his IEP simply consisted of the fact that if they were starting to notice some of those symptoms, they would just suggest that he go to another room where there was a teacher and just spend some time chilling out. It was a special education room, so fewer people, had some sensory calming type environment for him. I don't think he ever used it. We didn't make a big deal about it. We focused on, look, some kids are going to have a challenge with math, right? Some kids don't get math, and you don't get social interaction. It's something you're going to have to work harder at. And he did. I am happy to report he is a very successful young man, just now completing his electrician apprenticeship program, just bought a house. And we focused on, for him, look, this is the way your brain works. You use it to your advantage. And that's what he's done. So this is a very, I don't want to say an issue, something that's very close to my heart. So I jumped at the opportunity to host this, and I'm really looking forward to, I know Rachel and I have had many conversations over the years about autism and ADHD and other neurodiverse topics. And I'm really interested to kind of hear what everyone has to say. So I am going to stop sharing. And so our focus is on the peoples. And then just give each of our panel members a chance to introduce themselves. I've kind of reached out to them. None of this should be a surprise to them. I kind of sent notes ahead of time, and just give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. So let's go ahead and start with Rachel.
Awesome. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I always like to do inclusive and accessible introductions. So my name is Rachel Profitt. I'm a white woman with long red hair that's pulled back today. I am wearing a purple blouse and my rose-colored glasses, and I'm in my office with my epic sticker wall behind me. I am a principal program manager at Microsoft, and I identify as an autistic ADHDer with PTSD. I have a slew of other complicated diagnoses that I received as well, but that's just a little bit about me. I'm sure we'll talk more about it.
Yeah.
Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jacob Pepper. I'm the partner marketing manager here at Fidesic. We're an ISV that does accounts payable automation in the GP and BC space. And then I'm on this panel today to discuss my experience with Asperger's, just as a kid, just not really getting treatment for it, and then pursuing diagnosis as an adult, and just my experiences with that in the channel and how it showed up for me professionally. So I'm super excited to talk about that today.
Great, welcome. And Sam?
Yes, I'm having some internet issues with Teams today.
Oh no!
You keep seeing me pause, but I am here. So I am Sam Bush. I am currently unemployed. I got laid off. So if you know of anybody looking to hire a partner marketer at a director level, let me know, or a head of marketing. So, but for me, I come from a point of view of a family who didn't believe in mental health. As a child, I was just sit still and quit talking. Was my kind of directive in life, was just quiet down. And then I got diagnosed with ADHD at 32, and I'm currently 37. So took my own mental health into my own hands in my 30s, which sounds crazy, but if you know anything about my family and my life, you'll understand. But yep, coming from the hyperactive, impulsive ADHD.
Well, and I will say, so with my son, that was the psychiatrist, she said basically, with the Asperger's, he doesn't have a filter.
Yep.
And with ADHD, he has no impulse control. So if it comes to mind, he's going to say it. So.
Yep. I get that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here I have a couple of questions. The idea is each panel member to kind of answer, and you guys can decide who goes first. I don't care. Like I said, I'm just kind of here to facilitate. Feel free to expound as much as you want or don't want. And then we'll switch to if the audience, if the other members of the conversation here have any questions, comments, kind of overall discussion. And I think Bobby's going to kind of monitor the chat for me, and we'll go from there. So the first question that I have is, what are some misconceptions about neurodiversity that you wish more people understood or challenged in the workplace?
I mean, I'll maybe take the first half of that and give 2 cents first. Autism does not have an appearance.
Exactly.
I cannot tell you how many times, and I don't want to say stupid people, but for lack of better terms, people who are uninformed about what autism is, say, but you don't look autistic.
Oh my God.
I think what they maybe mean is oh, you're not a young boy who hand flaps and loves dinosaurs and trains. And you talk. Um, so I think that's probably the one that hits home most for me, because I think after I was diagnosed and kind of became open about it, like it's like the stupid people, like, and it's a terrible word, but like for lack of better word again, like flocked in to like say stupid things, like offensive things. And I think I took that one most personally. Because it's like I'm being vulnerable by like telling the rest of the world I'm autistic. And for like someone who's not a doctor or qualified to diagnose, to say something like, oh, but you don't seem autistic or you don't look autistic, like you seem normal to me. And I'm like, well, seeming normal comes at a really high expense. And it's actually a big part of why I went to go get a diagnosis. I didn't know what it was, but I knew, like, I had tried everything. I was just constantly exhausted and I couldn't figure out why. Every doctor in the world that I had gone to see was like, oh, well, you're fine. I mean, your thyroid levels are fine. Like at one point I was diagnosed with thyroid issues and, you know, put on thyroid medicine, and they're like, well, you know, your thyroid levels are fine, so I don't understand why you're tired. And, you know, your heart is fine, so I don't understand why you're tired. Like, oh, well, you've got sleep apnea, and we gave you this machine, and you're like, it says you're sleeping fine, but we're not really sure why you're tired. So like I was like, I think much like you said, Sam, I went on this journey to figure out the whole mental aspect of it. And I felt different. I knew that I was different. And I think it was like okay to be different, but it's like there's something here. I didn't know what it was. I don't think I went in expecting an autism like diagnosis. I think I kind of expected ADHD, but when I was young, I was actually misdiagnosed as being bipolar.
Okay.
And at some point, I was probably around 18 or 19 when I like dismissed the whole like bipolar diagnosis. I was like, yeah, this is garbage. I am not bipolar. Like I had done all this research on it and read about it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this was a diagnosis, but I didn't care enough to like do anything about it until like recently when I went and got my diagnosis. So I think like for me, autism shows up in a lot of different ways, and like ADHD and autism have a lot of crossover. Like there's this whole chart that my doctor shared with me when I got diagnosed about like the overlap between the two. But I think like the amount of energy that I expend, even still, I'm getting better. I'm learning like when to cover and when not to cover. And like it's a choice though. Like, and I think just being aware and being able to decide that it's a choice to cover has been helpful for me. You know, I think obviously I'm verbal. Many autistic people are nonverbal, and I think a lot of people associate the word autism with you can't speak, but obviously there's lots of really brilliant people that have autism and are very highly verbal.
Rachel, can you say a little bit about what you mean by covering? I mean, I understand, but just in case someone else that isn't.
Good job.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring up covering. So when I first started here at Microsoft, I didn't know what covering was either. And I actually had, we took this mandatory like learning, like all employees had to take. And one of them was about covering. And they were primarily talking about like covering, like a lot of their examples weren't like examples of autistic covering, but they were examples of like other types of diversity, like Black people who cover the way they speak. To sound more like the rest of the people in the room. But covering is basically like this concept where you pretend, right? Or you cover up one of your intrinsic traits or behaviors in order to feel like you're fitting in. And so for me as an autistic woman in technology, right, covering is masking, passing. I think a lot different people use different terms. They all kind of mean the same thing, and I think it's kind of a preference thing. And I think like even just like and thanks for asking, Kate. I think in autism, they often refer to it as masking more. But it's the same thing. Like, we're covering up who we are. We're masking who we are. We're trying to pass as normal, right? Or as whatever's kind of socially accepted as normal in the group. And I cover a lot of things. I don't make eye contact, and I cover that up, right? I've learned to look through people or look at like in between their eyes. And as a child, I was forced to like look my parents in the eyes. And it's like one of my most hated things that I had as a child, and I died like when I hear people talking about it or telling their children to do it. I'm like, no, like forcing somebody to look you in the eyes as a sign of respect is like the dumbest thing in the world. And I'll prove it to you by asking you, can a blind person respect you?
Ooh.
And I think we all know the answer to that is yes. Can a blind person look you in the eyes? No.
Exactly.
So how are they showing you respect? Like, right? Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks, Rachel. Sam, what do you, anything about misconceptions or challenge, things that you wish people challenged?
Yeah, I think kind of a little bit about my journey, and then I'll answer it. As just like a person, adult, my biggest things were I always just was diagnosed with anxiety. I don't view myself as a very anxious person. I'm kind of like a let go, let God kind of stuff, right? I'm like, what will be, will be. But in a lot of the ways that I have presented having ADHD is very much like my biggest trigger, or the biggest thing that I notice when my medication is not kicking in, is I cut people off when they're talking and finish their sentence. That's like my number one go-to. And you laugh because I've probably done it to you guys. But like, if my medicine isn't kicking in, the first thing that I'm going to do is finish your sentence in a call. And I think in my 30s in work, being a high performer at work, and then also getting into rooms with executives, and then I'm still doing that, like talk over people. That's how I kind of figured it out. And I had a peer of mine be like, girl, you can't cut off the CEO while he's talking. And I'm like, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I thought I was just collaborating in the conversation. And so this was pre-Zoom, pre-everything. So I couldn't really see this happening in my own life because I was the one doing it, right? I wasn't really recognizing it in myself. And it's not like I could have recorded and listened back. So after my peer said that, I started going into meetings and doing what I thought was the right thing, which was counting to 5 before I say what's on my mind, right? And all that did for me was delay my responses to things, right? Or I'm not saying the stuff that I'm like, this is what we should do and here's why. Instead, I'm like, 1, 2, 3. And, and it was a random mentor of mine that said to do that. We no longer talk anymore. It's a whole thing. But that, like, the way that it presented at work was almost stronger than it presented in my personal life. In my personal life, I have a little bit more, not patience, because that's not the right word, but like a little bit more room for people to talk to me without talking over them, because there's some sort of connection there. So that's how it's been for me in the workplace most of my life. And now that I'm like medicated and on this journey to figure it out, I still do it. Sometimes it's just not as severe.
How about you, Jacob?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So just like a little bit more about my background too. So when I was a kid, a few pediatricians like told my mom like, hey, like me and my twin brother are probably like on the autism spectrum of like some sort, just because we had really bad social issues just at like in preschool and just like getting along with like other kids. Like we had a bad speech impediment, and even when I'm nervous, like my speech impediment still does come out. So to the misconceptions question, the communication piece. But I guess just I'm going back to that. My mom, like similar to Sam's like family, really didn't believe in like mental health. She's a nurse practitioner, so she thought she knew better and all these things. So she was really like, oh, because you're communicative and like higher functioning. It's like I really like didn't get like help for that as a kid, and it kind of manifested as just like not really being able to like find community, just like feeling like there was just like weird something wrong with me. Like I'm also like gay, so there was like that piece too. But it was just like I think I am like pursuing a diagnosis as an adult because it's like manifesting in my corporate setting in like very strange ways, because like I'll do a speaking session and then like I'll have a stutter and then someone will like approach me and be like, oh hey, like it's really inspiring to see you like being on the spectrum and like speaking, and it's like, oh hey, like you noticed that, that's so strange. So it's like just what's obvious to like other people isn't really to me. So it's just, and I've also been just like seeing like I've been like diagnosed with like anxiety, depression, but like that didn't really like feel like super right. So it was just, I think to the misconceptions question though, it's just that like we're like antisocial and just like can't communicate, because for a while I really didn't feel like I was capable of like forming and like able to find a community until I was like in the channel. And then like once I was able to like meet with like other people, then it kind of does help too that like in the Microsoft channels they're not a lot of like Gen Z people. Like I really do struggle with like making friends and community like my age, just with like the social cues and like all those other things. But it's just, yeah, I think that I'm also 24 too, so in comparison to the other panelists, it's just like I like notice now that it's just like I want to pursue and I am pursuing getting a diagnosis, because it was just all these things of just, it's like it's a status change. It's like, oh, like I would have to like identify with that on like employment applications, and just like in like all of these like RFK times, like it's not really like if you're like high functioning, it's like sometimes it's just easier to just mask and just like not talk about it. And then I also had like lived and worked in Australia for several months, so it was like if I wanted to like immigrate there, it's like I like can't be autistic and like immigrate there because they like will deny my application. So it's all of these things of why I didn't really as a kid like go to pursue it. But it's like now as I'm traveling more and like in the channel events, it's like it's manifesting more, and it's just like, okay, like time to go like talk and speak to someone about this, because it's just, yeah, I think it's the time that it just shows up in your adult world if you didn't get it addressed as a kid. So
Well, and I guess I don't have that on the list, but I guess that is kind of a impromptu question. Is your diagnosis important to you? Like, does it? Because like for me,
Yeah.
I fight depression, and for the longest time, I was in college when I was diagnosed, and once I was diagnosed and started medication, everything is pretty much under control now. And I don't really care if anyone else knows about my diagnosis, but it makes me feel better to know that I'm not I'm not crazy, right?
Yeah.
That when I feel down, it's okay, right?
Yeah.
So do you all feel like having a diagnosis helps in some way, whether anyone else knows about it or not? But
Yeah. It helped me a lot just to validate my experiences through things, and to finally be able to say it wasn't just in my head, like it wasn't just something that I'm like, I think I have ADHD. I feel like
right.
as a millennial, people say that like just as a joke, and I'm like, don't say it if you don't mean it, like if you don't have it, because it's not this like, oh, I'm just forgetful, oh, like having an ADHD moment. Like I've heard that before, and some of those things are really triggering to me, because I'm like, I have those moments every single day, all day. I'm like, my mind right now is thinking of 30 different things to say, and I have to compartmentalize it enough down to say only one thing without talking at speed, right? So I think for me, getting the diagnosis just helped validate it. My best friend's a school psychiatrist, and she was the one who really pushed me to go get it, because she's like, it will
Oh no, an internet
she
issue.
froze.
Audio froze. I think for me, maybe till her audio comes back, like,
yeah,
it's almost like a double-edged sword, but I think like it was very validating to like get a diagnosis. But like it's also like at times it's like discouraging, and it's like, am I doing this like because I'm autistic? And it's like almost like that wish that you weren't like autistic, and like that desire to be something that you're not. It's like that we all want like what we don't have, right? You've got straight hair and you want the curly hair, you've got the curly hair and you want the straight hair, like whatever it is, right? Like it's kind of like that. But because I think like it's embarrassing at times. I think like, Sam, you were saying like I do shit in meetings and it's like and I've got like a buddy now, like it's kind of like body doubling, but I think it was so helpful for me. It was validating, but it's like you can't get the supports that you need in the workplace and request accommodations in a lot of settings unless you actually have the diagnosis, which is somewhat unfortunate. And that's because like we're not to the curb cut effect where it's just like the curb cut on the sidewalk is like a normal thing. We all just like it's just there. It's like we all accept it, and we're not like judging somebody who uses the curb cut like they're some diseased person, right? Like we aren't there yet as a society in terms of treating neurodivergence in that way. And I think it's like that's the dream, that's the goal, and that's why I'm so vocal about it. I think like we only get better, we only can start to achieve that goal if we all talk about it and realize like some of these accommodations. And it's interesting, like I actually recently requested a workplace accommodation for the first time, and I'm in my 40s, and it was like really weird and awkward, and I was like, I don't know, like what kind of accommodation would I request? But one of my colleagues who's ADHD and like went through the process was like, oh, Rachel, no, you should do it, because we were like just having like a one-on-one, and she was like telling me about the wall of awful, and I was like, what's the wall of awful, like? And she's like, no, she's like, it's so helpful. And my coach gave me all these tips to like help me get through it. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I went through the process and requested a workplace accommodation, and she's taught me all these things. And I'm actually now like, we have these things called signals twice a year at Microsoft, which are like these reports that like, what's the culture like here at Microsoft? And then we like work on it. And there's a bunch of things that my coworkers and colleagues like voted like really low and poor. And I'm like, oh yeah, like, and my job coach helped me with that and gave me these tools. And so now I'm like taking these tools and like teaching everybody in the team. And it doesn't even matter that they're not neurodivergent. Like these tools oftentimes can be super helpful. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And Rachel, I have to say, so I know you the best out of Jacob and Sam and yourself. And honestly, I love spending time with all three of you. The energy, just as someone who I think of myself as fairly low energy, I feed off of the energy that you guys have. So I just have to throw that out there. Yeah.
Bobby has his hand up.
He does.
He's clapping.
There was just a follow up in the chat. I don't know if you have this on your list, Jody, but somebody was asking about ways to help younger folks. If you have any suggestions, maybe a suggestion each, and how a person could help encourage a younger person who may be struggling with ADHD, with autism, with any of these things. And based on maybe your experience and what you wish, Rachel, you touched a little bit upon it, looking in the eyes, things that adults are doing that maybe we can back off on or keep in mind, would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that, Bobby.
Yeah.
It's a great question. The look me in the eye one, I think, is a super easy one. I think like I wish that there was just like one, like bullet like I could throw out there and be like, do this and then their life will be easier. But I think the reality is like each person is different. And because autism is a spectrum disorder, and like ADHD has multiple different types, to some extent you first have to like educate yourself about like where are they at on the spectrum and what do they need support with, and that's very personal to each person. And kids may not know or understand, but hopefully they're in programs with occupational therapists or psychologists who have like done some of that like identification and learning what those things are that the OT and the psychologist have recommended, I think are key, and then like trying to help implement those things. And I think like don't underestimate what the kid understands, right? I think like just having real conversations with the kids, especially as they start to get older, and asking them like what would make it easier for them, goes a long way. Like, and I think even in the workplace, right? Like if you see someone's uncomfortable, like ask. I think like for me, sensory processing is like one of my biggest areas where it's different. And there's a lot of little things that we all can do. Lighting, right? So like if the lighting doesn't bother you, just ask, can we dim the lights? Like, or would you like offer to dim the lights?
Yeah.
Right? If there's multiple seating choices, like offer up the seating choice. Having fidgets available, even for people who aren't like ADHD, like it can just be super therapeutic to people to have different types of fidgets available. I think there's a lot of little things like that that can be easy. Like some people are overly sensitive to like their olfactory, the nose, right? So like not wearing super strong perfumes, or lotions, like especially when you go to conferences and like big events are like super overwhelming for me, because people want to touch and people like smell different, like every perfume under the sun, and it's like, oh my God, if I could walk around with like nose plug, like at conferences, and I'm not saying that you smell bad, but it's like you smell overwhelming, right? Is what it is. And it's like my brain struggles to like put that all out. I mean, I use earplugs when I'm in big like group settings and things like that like help cancel out some of the noise, and there's little things like that help me. I mean, but there's all sorts of accommodations that I've learned in the last few years. I now brush my teeth with a 3-sided surgical brush, like, and I use hot water because I struggled to brush my teeth because like it was a sensory nightmare in my mouth. Like I tried lots of different things, but like what works for me may not work for the next person. So I think it's like trying different things, and being aware that people need different things. And the best thing you can do is to ask or just offer multiple options. And when you offer, like asking can be private and vulnerable, and they may not be willing to say. So just offering multiple options, and allowing the person to choose. And I think that's a great technique for young people and adults alike.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. I think as someone who got diagnosed older in life, I look back on like just having people in my life who would have given me choices to kind of navigate my life would have been very helpful. So things like, do you want to stand up instead of sit down? Like I was constantly like pacing around while the TV was on. Like my favorite thing ever was to stand like very close to the TV and like sway the whole time I was watching a show. And my parents would lose their mind. They're like, just sit on your butt. And I like, just give me the chance to do it how I want to do it, and give me the freedom to decide how I'm most comfortable experiencing whatever. I think that is really powerful in young people in general, to just give them the availability to be themselves, and to if you're noticing these things in your children, giving them a runway to figure it out with a psychiatrist, a therapist, something is the best thing that you can do. And I think Robin mentioned, so your son was diagnosed with ADHD and a social anxiety disorder at a young age, and you're seeing some of those things in yourself. I think you want to know, like, as an adult, how do you have those conversations? Find people like us to have those chats with, but I highly encourage you to even just tell your regular doctor and get started there in discussing it. They have all kinds of like tests and discussions that they'll have with you to help you kind of identify if it's something you present as it's likely something that you need to kind of navigate if you're open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say just if you're like a parent, just like believing in mental health, just like giving your kids just like access to like psychiatrists, like therapists and stuff. And I'll even say just to like as an adult, it's like I work fully remote. It's like it's not necessarily an accommodation just because it's like that's just the modality of the job, but it's like I kind of view it as like an accommodation because it's like it's awesome. I get to like I don't have to I guess mask in like an office or like a cubicle type setting. So it's like all of like the things that like come with that has been like I guess super helpful. So it's just like yeah, I guess just like create just like meet them where they're at and just like create spaces that like can help them. And then even as an adult it's just like the if you can get accommodations then just yeah like I love working remotely, so I just wanted to throw that out there. But
You said remote best. For me, being in office can be really, really fun, but I don't get half as much stuff done because I'm walking and talking constantly. That's my go-to. So being at home locked in this prison of an office forces me to do stuff. But I do a couple of things to get this stuff done. So I think Rachel mentioned body doubling earlier. I am a huge fan of body doubling. Body doubling can mean so many things. So Google it for sure, or ChatGPT it in the real world. But for me, I was at a previous employer and I ran a group called Access that was all about disabilities in the workplace, physical and mental. And every single month we had a body doubling day, which was about 4 hours on the calendar. And you could come, no one talks during it. We turn on like some ambient music of some kind, and we're all just in there. The very beginning, if you join on time, because you can come in whenever, the very beginning, you say what you're trying to accomplish during that time. And then we all go on mute and we listen to the little music and we work on our little tasks. And the accountability of seeing someone else, even though they're on the screen, for some reason helps my brain to feel like we're working towards something together. And I'm like, I can't let them down because I told them I was going to do this one task today that I've been putting off for 6 months because I don't like to make a presentation, but I got to do it today, you know? So that's been one way in work that I've figured out how to better myself. Or things like I'd love to set a timer and force myself to work to a shot clock, because my hyper side of it is like, I'll just get that done when I think about it later, and I'll go do 50 other things instead of the one thing I need to do. So I force myself to set like a 30-minute timer, and I check in with myself and say like, okay, we got 3 minutes left. Is this done? Is this not done? And I kind of gamify getting some of my stuff done because that's how it works best for me.
So we have Rachel for about another 10 minutes. So I want to throw one other question out there. Can you share a moment when your neurodivergent traits helped you solve a problem or approach a challenge in a unique way? So one of the things that we always focused with my son was you have this, right? You're neurodivergent, use it to your advantage. So is there anything from any of you that?
I mean, I think every day, like, so one of the interesting things about like how autism presents in me is that I have like an eidetic memory, and I can, but it doesn't work with everything, but it does work with like software, specifically Dynamics, and it's like my passion interest project. So I can remember like every screen in the software. And like, so my memory and recall of like software and buttons, like, and I figured that out really early in my life. And it's obviously what allowed me to like be really good at my job and like launch my career. Had I not figured that out, I'd probably be homeless, somewhere in Indiana. I don't know. Like, so like, I think like, and I figured that out before I even knew I was autistic, but like that is a skill that I'm constantly using. I also think like another one that I use all the time is like I'm able to like make connections between things, because I think it's like a metaphor that my doctor shared with me after I got diagnosed. I'll find it and maybe share a link in the chat, but the way my brain files and stores information is very different. Like if you think about most brains store, like the analogy is like they store like books in a shelf, like on a library. And the way my brain stores information is like the books are on the wall, splayed open. And it's like a detective board, right? And so like I'm able, like, because all of my books are splayed open and like I've got these little red lines and dots like going all over the place, I'm able to make connections and inferences that maybe other people aren't. And so like that's a strength that I have, and I'm able to like recall that information and use it to connect dots that a neurotypical mind just can't do.
For me, it's so if you've ever seen me speak at something or just me at a trade show, you will know these two things. I have so much energy and resilience. In work and in life, I bounce back fast because that's just how my neurodiversity works, right? I'm always thinking of the next thing in work and in life. And when I'm at my best, I'm not dwelling on the bad. I'm focusing on like moving forward. But the other way that it really helps me in work, and something that I thought was just like, it's cool that I have this, but I am insanely creative and out of the box thinking. As someone with ADHD, that's a huge trait, is being forward thinking and thinking 5 years from now versus today, is one of my big strengths in work and in life. And it comes from being a neurodiverse person. Those are a couple of things. Another one probably would be like, I don't have like analysis paralysis ever. I'm not like sitting in the weeds and kind of analyzing every way possible something is going to work out. Instead, I'm like, I will run towards a direction without, sometimes good and bad, right? Sometimes it's like, let's calm down. But other times it's like, I'm quick start. I jump into projects really fast. And move to kind of focusing on things at a high level of productivity in chunks. So I think that's been a big strength of me. And kind of like what Rachel said, like, I don't have one instance where it's helped me. I think it helps me every single day. I think it helps me in the way I present myself, in the way that I show up to things. It has made me really focused on the good sides of being an ADHDer.
How about you, Jacob?
Yeah, and then just to add to that, I would say that just like I really struggle with like small talk. So just like being a partner marketer, like on these channel events, it's just like it's kind of cool because it's like just being at the event and just like talking about just like business is like enough reason to like have like a purposeful conversation with someone. So it's just like I kind of just like it takes the pressure of like the small talk out of it. So it's just like if I'm gonna be out in like a social setting with like I guess Gen Zers my age at like a non-channel event, it's like I have no clue what to talk to about with people. It's like it's just I go silent. But it's just at these events, it's I think it's just like I can like really like lock in and just like focus on just like having like conversations. And it's just I mean like that's even how like me and Jody like last week it was just we were shutting down the bar at like the Ohio event. So it was just like it's like that's still like I guess like low energy, but still just like I feel like I get to like express my like social energy in like ways that are like really like helpful for me at like channel events. So I think that like that's been kind of a strength. And then just like I guess the challenge to that is like just picking up on like social cues and just like I guess like learning more about just like hierarchy and just like how like things in the channel work and just like things. So it's just like it's been interesting I guess to like have like the energy to do that, but also just like be able to like learn and pick up on the social cues. So yeah.
Great. Okay, last question, and then we can kind of go where we go and see if anyone has any questions. I love that there's so much going on in the chat. I'm kind of looking forward to going back and catching up on that. What practical changes have made the biggest difference for you or your team in creating a more inclusive environment for a neurodiverse individual? So I'll just say that, and this kind of goes back to what you can do to support young people. We were just always really kind of accepting of my son, and even before the diagnosis, of the way his brain was wired and his sensory issues. So like loud noises, He can't watch a basketball game on TV because that constant squeak of the tennis shoes on the floor just set him off. So at like 3 years old, 2.5, 3 years old, he had his own set of earmuffs. And we would go to parades or any place we went that if it was, we just always had him with us. When he started mowing the grass, he wore his earmuffs, and that was one of the things he had to have to mow the grass. Has his own house now, still a thing, right? He gets out the earmuffs to mow the grass because it's too loud. And we were just accepting of that, right? He needed to have a reason. Like, we have to leave at 5 because it takes us 30 minutes to get there and it starts at 5:30. We don't want to be late. Okay. You couldn't just say, we're leaving at 5. So those are, I guess, kind of for a young person is, when they do tell you what they need, and the younger they are, the less able they are to articulate something definitively. Accept it. Just believe that they need it and don't challenge it. Like for me, things weren't too loud, but for him it was.
Yep.
So I didn't want to argue with him about it. There are ways to solve that. Get the earmuffs.
Yeah.
And move on.
Yeah, there's lots of options. I think maybe 2 more that I'd add to that. And they almost like trickled out of my brain. Sorry. ADHD moment. I forget. It'll come back to me and I'll type them in the chat because I do have to drop in like 3 minutes for my next call. But
one thing for me that's been helpful in work is the standing desk. I'm like, why did we never have these before? Like, it has been the savior in my long work days. Like, just being able to, like, I'm not good at talking while I'm standing because I'm like just too much motion. But when I have something I need to get done, to be able to like stand up or like walk in place or like walk on my walking pad and like write something out is so much easier for me because I have the flexibility of motion happening. And I think things like that for your employees should kind of just be a standard now. Like, everywhere that I've worked since kind of this work from home boom, they give you a stipend to purchase like desk equipment and things. And I'm like, the very first thing that they should be like giving you the opportunity is having a standing desk, because it gives you so much range of how you can sit, how you can stand, how you can, navigate being at a desk.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the same about the standing desk. Thank you for giving me your old standing desk. I really do use it and appreciate it. But yes, I would say just like, I mentioned before, just like working remotely or just like having like whatever like modality like works best for you. So even if it's like still a fully remote office, as like Sam was saying, having those like power hours where it's just like ambient noise, just like mic off, but just like still like working together, like that works super well. And I guess just like like as an adult too, just like having a job with health insurance, like that's been, I guess, very obviously, it's just like I'm able to go pursue and get like treatment for all these things because I have a good health insurance and like a team who supports me in that journey. So I guess it's just those are good ways to support your coworkers. But
that, or like I've struggled in some one-on-one settings. Like I've had bosses before that are very much like, just shoot the shit, excuse the language, during my one-on-one. And that does not work for me. I need a agenda. I need a structure. I need to ask questions and get answers. And I think some ways that managers can really help with this is to ask your employees what they need or want out of your one-on-one. The one-on-one is for the employee, not for the manager most times. And I think that's a common misconception in a lot of workplaces is, the way that those are run is not the same for everybody. So for me to have an hour with my boss every week and it's just storytelling, I'm like, we could do this over a beer later, but I need these 10 things answered, right? So I think it's navigating what works for the individual in this sort of workplace setting, is something that I think is a nice way to accommodate people's differences.
I think that's a great thing. Again, it kind of goes back to listening to what people need.
Yes.
even if they can't articulate, I need a structured environment. If you have an employee who comes in and you have just this casual one-on-one, and when they leave or before they leave, do you feel like this accomplished anything? Is there anything we need to change? Like Rachel was saying in the beginning, offering options, and that kind of a lot. It all comes down to communication, I think. Is and not all of that will be a very verbal, I need X.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And especially people on the spectrum that may not be as good at reading body language or facial expressions or things like that. I remember one time my son was, I can't even remember what he's doing, but my husband was losing his mind, angry. And my son looked at him and went, "You seem angry." Right? Are you? And to him, it was like but it had to be like so extreme before it registered. And it's one of the things that we worked on. He had a great speech therapist actually in middle school that really worked with social cues, and not like when you first meet someone, you should say hello and how's your day, how's your day, before you launch into your latest obsession or latest focus. And it has made a big difference with him, where he would tell me like he was going into the gas station to pay for things instead of just paying at the pump, to force himself to have those interactions in practice. I don't think he does now, but at the time, it was one of those where he was recognizing those opportunities to improve, and just make things, and not because other people felt he should, because he felt it made his life smoother.
Yeah.
To practice those skills, which that is what I absolutely loved about it. Is it wasn't anything that we were saying you should do this, because it was totally his, I want these things to be smoother for me, and here's how I can practice it. Which should be your motivation, right? Your motivation should never be to make someone else happy. It should always be for your own personal gain, personal benefit. My opinion.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So that's kind of all I really have. Does anyone in the audience have any specific questions that they want to voice? Bobby, anything I've missed in the comments that we should address?
There's been a lot of great conversation in the comments, a lot of great sharing.
I can't wait to catch up on it.
Yeah, it's been interesting and hopefully helpful to those folks that are out there sharing. I think it's been great. I think, the one thing that's resonated for me in all this, that something I carry with me is really breaking down. It's so hard, so easy for us to say, making something normal. This is going to be normal, and really just reminding myself that normal is such a fluid word. It's a word that means nothing. It means something in the moment, and there really is no normal, in my opinion. So going back to the question about how to treat kids and how to recognize these things, it really is just kind of opening yourself up to not having these constructs of, like Rachel said, like, well, this kid didn't look me in the eye, he must not have any respect, or this kid didn't do that, or that person didn't do that. Like, if you come into an interaction, in my opinion, with just a blank slate and a green field, and meet that person, whether they're a 4-year-old or a 44-year-old, it doesn't matter. Meet them where they are. You'll quickly discern how you can communicate with them. I think if your mind is clear and open to that intentional interaction you're having at that moment. And so that's just the way I go about. And it's a learned thing. It's not something that I started out doing at age 18, but that's where I am now. And I think it has evolved through, back to how do you do more. It's attending, it's listening, it's hearing from folks like Jacob and Sam and Rachel and Jody and all the people that have commented here. It's hearing that and putting that aside and remembering that in the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Taylor, did you have a question or a comment? And then we'll get to Sebastian.
Yeah, first of all, loving the conversation, but I love that y'all talked about how your disability can enhance in certain areas. Now, like thinking of it kind of like a disability superpower. So in those situations where it can be a benefit, would that be something you would recommend people would even say in an interview as one of their strengths, and maybe it'll kind of ease their way into disclosing their disability at the same time? Like, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Interesting. I have not thought about that. I actually, now that I'm applying for jobs, it's the first time that I've marked that I have a disability on the like self voluntarily, like all that stuff. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh no, they're gonna know, or they're gonna not know which one, which is like
Right,
like,
which is better.
my advantage or disadvantage. And then I got really thinking about it. So I have a nephew that's in a wheelchair, and I'm like, forever he's gonna mark that because it's a physical one, right? So thinking about the neurodiverse disability, I hate the word disability for this because I just do not, I think it's silly, it's not real. But disabilities to me mean something so different. But to mark that on a sheet has been really hard for me up until the last like 2 years. Now I'm like, yeah, what of it? I sure do. But I think telling in an interview is something I haven't done yet. I might test it. I might test it this week and get back to you, Taylor, because I think once I start working somewhere, I tell my manager usually, but I haven't done it in an interview process. And I don't know if that's because I'm afraid to or what. Maybe it is fear.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting talking point because I
Yeah.
certainly would never say it as one of my weaknesses, although there are situations that are hindered because of my disability, but there are certain situations I do better in. So
Exactly.
I might highlight those pluses and not focus on the negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think that was what was kind of discouraging me from like going to go get like an official diagnosis, was the fact that like, oh, when you do apply for all these things, like, oh, like a job, or like, oh, if you want to like immigrate to another country, like you have to like put like oh, like it's marking that box. So it's just like, and like at like my job, it's like I didn't tell my boss until like this year, and I had been working there for about like a year and a half. So it's just, I think it's, yeah, back to that point of just like fear, and just like you just like, if you're high functioning enough, you don't really want to like, I don't know. I guess it was just like, let's see how long I can get away with it, kind of like, which is better to like market or not market. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to test it. I'm going to start telling all my people I'm interviewing with. Let's see how it goes.
Well, it was interesting to that you mentioned a nephew in a wheelchair, right? And right, it's a visible disability. My son's girlfriend has she has to wear FHOs, right? She has issues with her feet and a connective tissue disorder. She has, I mean, she is officially disabled. She has the parking thing, all of the stuff. She has never thought until the last couple of years where she had to have some surgery, the last year and a half maybe, she's had to have some surgery and things that have really affected her mobility. She never thought of herself as disabled, which I kind of love, right? She was always just, she worked as a bartender, she worked at a farm, right? There were all these things that if she loved to do it, she would do these things. And then what she found is that she couldn't keep it up, and she would have to leave that job because, and then it finally dawned on her that she was choosing jobs that were physically demanding more so than she could sustain.
Yep.
And it's been a big adjustment for her to kind of help her work through that, but yeah, if you saw her, you would go, oh yeah, she has a disability. But she didn't identify as having one. So yeah. Sebastian, what did you have for us?
Hi first. So I tried to get my camera on today, but it's not working. Why it's not working? Okay, then you need to see the count. Sorry, it's obviously because it's the count. I mean, I have slight autism with Asperger, with a high gifted and a really high IQ, and with a kid. When you talked about your son, sounds familiar to me. Really, really, really. There's some. I would say from my point, I never saw it as a disability. So I all the time see it as a gift and as something really good. There's something I would just probably give everybody on the way. So I learned later on, I mean, now 41. When I was a kid, I had a hard time to do it, but I never bended for nobody. I had 20 jobs in my life. When I had jobs where I was 3 months in, where circumstances was not fitting, but it was not the right circumstances. And that's the important thing. Everybody is right like he is. And the problem is mostly the surroundings and the environment and not like, and I'm somehow defending myself to calling it a disability or to calling it like somehow to that the people who are not fitting in the norm need to change. From my perspective, now I have my own company. I do still some interim fireworking for Dynamics or for different stuff. I was 15 years in finance, leadership positions. I know that peak performers never have an easy life because they know fitting really not in. But it's interesting for me to see too, because I'm from Europe, so from Berlin. So it's like kind of interesting to see that you in the US have a kind of same, so that there's, for me, it's a major society problem actually, because it's not only about people with neurodivergent, it's all over. Because as soon somebody don't fit into the schema people have, because of that I wrote before, why it's actually not good to interrupt the CFO. If he talks shit, yeah, sure, I interrupt him. So yeah, just as that. Or if his idea is bad, I tell him right away. So and I think I feel a lot of colleagues I feel even Rachel when she was talking. I mean, already she's not there anymore, but I say sorry because I scanned the sticker wall in the background. But I know this feeling: people thinking you don't listening to them when you just looking somewhere else because you have your surroundings. But actually, it's the total opposite. You getting what they say, and you get the whole surroundings and the environment. But the problem is they don't get that. You get all this, and this is the problem. Actually, not the people who have certain skills, then the other people need to change. Actually, and I would say that at last words because I think everybody needs encouragement, and I think the best thing you can do is when you feel somebody is in this kind of let's say spectrum, just encourage the people, tell them that they're great as they are, and just go with the people. And help them, support them everywhere where they are. So just easy as that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I mentioned a book in the chat. It's called Against Techno-Ableism, and I apologize, I cannot remember the author's name right now. But she starts out the book talking about disability as a social construct. And it's this idea that if you can't contribute at a certain level, at what you consider a normal level, then it's because of a disability. Yeah, Kate, Ashley Shue, thank you. It is and she goes through several disabilities, and it's this idea that people with a disability should have to rely on technology to be quote unquote normal. And fit into the normal world. Whereas, like Sebastian said, we really should be changing society so that everybody fits, and that everybody has inherent value to society, regardless of what they can contribute or produce.
Yes, couldn't agree more. It's a very hard world we live in, going the opposite direction sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Bobby?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I've done a lot of hiring, probably interviewed thousands of people over the course of my career as a manager and a director in lots of different industries. And if my mind wasn't open, and this is just putting a double click on what Sebastian said, if my mind wasn't open, I would have missed out on some great folks. If I had compartmentalized, oh, this person isn't paying attention, maybe, or just having some ability to step into these conversations and understand, help me to make better hiring decisions, to understand, again, calling them a superpower, whatever it is, but knowing that this person was going to be an asset.
Yeah.
And I think it was Sam saying, hey, I need to adjust in the moment, the way, it's like not, every one-on-one's not the same. You can't make this, template to say everybody fits in this template. The template has to shift, and that's when the magic happens. When you're open to shifting the template and allowing people space to be themselves, then you just open yourself up to an immense return in value that I've seen firsthand. So I mean, again, I not even on one hand or two hands could I name people that I've worked with, hired, mentored, counseled that would have maybe been boxed out. So just wanted to double click all those thoughts and my own experience.
100%. Kate.
Well, wow, I have a safe, brave space question for you guys, and it's around this word disability. I was raised by a Asperger's father. I was also raised by my mom and my two gay dads. So when I kind of came into society, right, as a young person and started seeing some of these really, listen, I'm being honest, really gross social stigmas being put on people, lifestyles, whatever, it was shocking to me because I was raised in a very different environment. And as I've kind of come into this professional world, I have a really hard time with the word disability because I don't see it as a disability. Like Taylor, like you said, I see it as a superpower. Some of these strengths that people are bringing are so different from mine, and together, my goodness, the places will go together because a perspective is different from mine. I don't want to live in an echo chamber of perspectives. So this is my question. Is this word disability a bad word, and is it holding us back? I understand we have to give it a title, which is so weird to me, but we have to give it a title. But what if we started, in that line that says disability, what if you crossed it out and said, my superpower is?
Yeah. What's so crazy is, so my nephew who's in the wheelchair, he has spina bifida, he's 9. I recently asked him, I said, what do you think when people say you're disabled? And he's like, I don't even really think about it, Aunt Sammy. He's like, I just can't use my legs. It's not that I'm like, I don't view it like it's like an ability I don't have. He's like, I just was born without the use of my legs. So why do we keep having to use the word disability? And he's like, I understand I get a handicap pass because of it. And like, I have to, like, my parents had to buy a different van for me and what have you. But he, even as a 9-year-old coming into the world of himself, he's like, I think it's a stupid word, Aunt Sammy. I'm like, I agree, because I don't like labels really on anything. I think labeling stuff is the very first sign of compartmentalizing people and their experiences and what they are. So in general, like, I don't say I have a disability ever. Like, I don't think of the way my brain works as a disability. I don't really think of it as a superpower either. I think of it just as who I am. Like, it's just who I am. It's who I present as, it's who I show up as, it's who I've created myself to be and how I was built. Like, it just is me. And I think normalizing that in the workplace has been such a weird adventure. And I have had the benefit of working in a lot of young startups where it's not really that weird to have all of these things going. I find in larger organizations with maybe older generations, I have a harder time because they say it's a disability, right? Whereas like when I'm working with my millennial peers, we're all like, hey, we're all just weird in our own way. Cheers. Like, that's been totally healthy and great and amazing. But then to put in like the generation of my parents or older, like my grandma still to this day is like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, no, there's not. Like, and like, I agree with you, but what you're saying, what I'm saying about it are two different things. You think it's not real. I think it's just who I am. Right? That was a very long-winded, vulnerable thing, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
Taylor?
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jacob.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna like add on to that. I was like, yeah, like I feel like I'm like differently abled or like person with a disability probably like in conversation would probably be like better like terms or just like because it seems like disability is like I mean that seems like a very legal definition. Like if we're gonna like talk to people like in communication, it's like probably just like more like human focused language. But yeah, that was all. But
Very inhumane to say disability.
yeah.
Yeah. The Taylor.
I think this conversation is great, but I also think it's important to point out the difference between identity first language and person first language because it's very closely related.
Yep.
So for anyone who doesn't know, it's like, for example, saying Taylor is a blind person or Taylor is a person with blindness. And so some people may view that disability as like a bad word, but some people embrace it as part of their identity and don't view it as like a disability and it's just part of who they are. And I do a lot of interviews with people with autism and various disabilities, and I found that a lot of people with autism actually prefer identity first when it comes to their autism because it's just part of their personality sometimes, part of who they are. And so I think that it's very important to know it can vary greatly depending on who you're talking to.
I think that's a really good point. And Kate, to follow up on yours, I grew up with gosh, my grandfather had was missing a leg. My very first babysitter was deaf. My rifle coach was a quadriplegic. I knew tons of people who were on the spectrum, didn't know it at the time. They were just quirky or different, or and so to kind of get out into the world where all of these things are labeled and judged felt kind of weird to me. So, and I do use the word disability, but I don't like it. And for want of a better term, if we have to have a term. I really, so our diverse minds is Taylor's child, right? As a label, as a name for our group, because it is about diversity and of the mind, and that can come because of a neurodiversity, a physical diversity, situational, anything that like I said, kind of puts you outside the normal box, and having. I love this kind of collaboration, right? I want to be around people who are different than me. I want different perspectives. I feel that makes me a stronger person. Plus it's so much more interesting, right?
So much.
I feel like in a lot of ways I'm kind of boring. So I love to be around other people and hear other perspectives. And we have just a few minutes left, and I have to thank all of you. This has been such a great session. I can't say enough good things about it. This has been probably the best 90 minutes of my week.
Jody, I would just like to add, I think to me, and I love being a part of the group for Diverse Minds, but I don't think it's just celebrating those things that make us different, right? I think ultimately it's seeing those things that make us different and celebrating those things that make us all the same. So
100%.
I mean, my daughter was burned very, very young. She had 3rd-degree burns, 20%, lost fingers, lost toes. We had to take her to school. Every single time she started a new class, we had to go in and we had to talk to all the kids in this class and explain that she wasn't any different than they were. This is what happened. This is how it happened. This is why it happened. This is why you don't do these things. But ultimately, allowing them the opportunity to realize that just because she looked different, acted different, had different abilities, she wasn't any different than anybody else in that classroom. And I think that holds true for all of us and everyone in the community and in the world. And I think those are the things that we need to focus on, are those things that make us the same rather than those things that make us different.
Absolutely. We all want the same basic. We all want to be safe. We want to be fed. We want to be loved. And everyone is worthy of that.
Yeah.
I agree. Like I said, what I enjoy is getting a different perspective. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
you and I have had some great conversations, right? We have different experiences, and so we look at the exact same thing in a little bit different way. And I love learning about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Variety is
just
the
want to,
spice of life.
sorry, go ahead.
I just said variety is the spice of life. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
Taylor?
Oh, I just want to emphasize, I think Robin made a fantastic point, and I think it's great that you did that for your daughter. And I think teaching kids at a young age that people, like, there's people that may be different from them, but that's not bad, creates much more compassionate people. Like, for example, my niece finally started to understand my level of blindness. And because of that, she's like told me stories about friends at school who have a disability, and she's like embraced them and like understands that some people may be a little bit different, but that doesn't mean they're not a kid you can play with. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. And a lot of times you get exposed to so many fun things that you never knew existed.
yeah.
Right. Some of the adaptive, like I said, without going into a whole lot of detail, my rifle coach, small bore rifle, is a quadriplegic, and he had a lot of adaptive technology that I would have never known about.
Mhm.
And he was also very like open, and I don't want to say let us play with it, but he
Yeah.
let us play with it. Like,
Yeah.
I've spent hours at a time in a wheelchair, and at a very young age was able to recognize how different it was because I could stand up and walk away when I was done.
Yep.
Right. And being able to kind of put that in perspective, like I'm always going to be short. There's nothing I can do about that. I can wear high heels. I can do some things to make myself be tall, but I'm always going to be short. And that doesn't make me less valuable, I guess is the.
I love the adaptive stuff. So my nephew plays sled hockey. When he first started playing, it was the cutest stinking thing. Now he's like very good. It's kind of scary to watch because they're like all the way down to the ice. So every season they do a like family day where we can all get in sleds and play. I did it once and I was literally in so much pain. I was like, this is so hard. Like you have to have so much upper body strength. I just kept like tipping over, like struggling. And I'm like, the differences in how his body will like get him through things is very different than mine. And in understanding like most of my like strength comes from my legs and all of his strength is in his upper body and his core. The kid has a six-pack at age 9,
Right.
because he has to adapt to live the life that he wants in order to be the most fulfilled that he wants, right? And I think like celebrating but also understanding and putting yourself in the seat of someone who is not typical is the best way to learn and live. Like going into experiences and learning from people in the seat they're sitting in is the only way to diversify your life and diversify your brain and get the most out of life.
100%. 100%. Okay, so we are right. We have 1 minute left. Not that I think we get kicked out or anything. But I just want to thank everyone. Sam, Jacob, Rachel, when you follow up with us on the recording, thank you for your time and your vulnerability. It's a lot to share with a group of people. Like I said, some of us know each other well, other people do not. And so to just share that out there is a big, I don't want to say a big risk, but it takes a lot of strength, and I appreciate that. I thank everyone who joined us today and who have spoken out, who've, like I said, listed things in the comments. We do not have our October event scheduled yet, but we will soon, and we'll be sharing it out on Meetup, and we hope that you can all join us again.
Yes. Thank you guys. This has been amazing. The conversation in the chat has been so inspiring and so great that if I was the type to cry, I would be crying right now. This has really warmed my heart. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bobby, any closing comments?
No, everything's been said so beautifully. I couldn't put a better bow on it. You guys have been awesome as panelists and contributors.
Kate said we can't cry, the meds don't let us, which is the truth. That's the real reason I can't cry.
Tear blockers.
Great.
That's right. I'm welling up for everybody. So, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, Bobby.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao, thanks.